All right, welcome to the Broken Picker Challenge. Not challenge, the Broken. I did a challenge to improve your broken picker many years ago, and I decided to create a webinar instead. We don't need these 5-day challenges where you have to cut these, every day you get a challenge email and you're part of a Facebook group. And I decided let's keep this simple, and we're going to have a webinar, and I'm going to share a lot of what I share in the challenge in this 1 hour webinar. And I want to thank you for joining me. I know you have other things to do with your life, and this is going to be a jam-packed. We're going to learn a ton, so you can take notes if you like. And let me know in the chat where you are. I'd love to know where everybody's joining from. So while everybody's coming in, if you can write in the chat box where in the world you are. And a quick reminder that there will be a recording of this. It will be sent out tomorrow morning. And you lucky ones who are here live are going to get a free gift at the end. So stay on, do not leave. It's only an hour. And I also have a special announcement at the end, something I have never announced before. So you're the first ones here. All right, we have people here from Boston, Virginia, New Jersey, San Diego, Boston, Vancouver Island, Pennsylvania, Long Island, Stanford. Hello, Lexi, who I know from my Toastmasters class, and Mill Valley, California, Los Angeles. We got people, a bunch of people from California, and some from Massachusetts. There's another Massachusetts, Trisha, and lots of people from all over. So thank you. I'm in Stamford, Connecticut with Lexi. And okay, so let's get started. We are here because we have broken pickers. The person that we choose to partner with is one of the most important choices that we will ever make. And even though I don't believe there's only one person out there for all of us, there are certainly people who are far better for us than others. Most people choose the wrong person who could never be the kind of partner that they need and deserve. Raise your hand if you have ever done this. I know I have. I certainly married the wrong person and stayed for a very long time. I see some hand raises. So why do we do this? Why do we pick people who are not good for us, people where we're like unhappy? And even more importantly, how do we choose the right ones? So it all begins with fixing our picker. And that's why I created this masterclass. You're going to learn what a broken picker is, how the picker got broken, and how we can fix it. Why do so many smart women and men date the wrong people? We're not born with a broken picker. We choose the wrong partners mostly because we never learned how to have healthy relationships. Most of us did not have healthy relationships modeled for us by our parents, even if they had good relationships. I was just interviewing somebody who she was talking about how her parents had an amazing relationship. They were inseparable. So she thought that was what she needed, to find somebody where they were like stuck together like glue. And I said to her, did growing up in that family also cause you to have anxiety? Because your parents were such a strong unit that you were ignored. And she said, yes, exactly. So these are the things that determine who we date, how we choose our partners. We're not modeled healthy relationship skills by our families usually. And they are skills. There are skills to relationships, how we communicate, how we set boundaries, how we know our values, our needs. So we pick the wrong partners from a place of fear sometimes, from a place of scarcity, and from a place of insecurity. We rely on other people's opinions about what kind of partner is good for us rather than what we really should have in a partner, what we really want and need. If you've ever listened to people saying, oh, you should date this person. I mean, I dated a guy once who said he married the woman that became his second wife because everybody told him she was going to be good for him. I mean, We can be so heavily influenced by the people in our lives. Raise your hand if this has ever happened to you, if you have been strongly recommended to date somebody and you were unable to see the incompatibilities. I see Allison has a raised hand. Thank you. So what causes our pickers to break? There are many reasons. I'm going to share the top 5, and I'm going to put the poll up, and I want you to vote. So let's hope and pray that this works. I tried it the other day. Oops, let's see. Polls and quizzes. Okay, this is the right one. Nope, that's the wrong one. Okay. Let's go to the other one. Why is this not working? Hold on. Okay, I'm going to end this poll and stop sharing. Okay. Let's hope that the second poll works. Back. How is your picker broken? Launch. Okay. Does everybody see that? Yes? Okay. So we keep dating a certain type of person who's not a good match. And if that sounds like you, then vote for that one. You can vote for more than one. And the second way that pickers get broken is you date people who are charming and sexy on the surface, but they lack the qualities of a good partner. Or do you date people who are self-centered or high maintenance? Maybe you date people who alternate between treating you well and being dismissive or abusive in any way. Or you date people who are unavailable in some way. So I'm going to wait for all the votes to come in so I can repeat them. You date a certain type of person who's not a good match. You date people who are charming and sexy on the surface, but they don't have the qualities of a good partner. You date people who are self-centered or high maintenance, or you date people who alternate between treating you well, being dismissive or abusive, or you date people who are unavailable in some way. So it looks like we have a winner here. It's hard to choose just one. I think I don't have to choose just one, Trisha. Choose as many as you want. And then we will get the results in just a second. So if everybody has if everybody has voted. All right, we're still getting votes here. All right, I am gonna end the poll. It doesn't let you choose more than one? Okay, so I am going to finish this. I'm sorry that didn't work because I would love to see you choose more than one, but we can discuss in the chat if you have more than one. So I'm going to end the poll. We'll see the results. And the results are 41% said you date people who alternate between treating you well and being dismissive or abusive in any way. That was the highest. Second highest was people who are unavailable in some way. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. All right. I had a feeling the polls were going to be a little wonky. So if there was something else that you wanted to vote for, just put it in the chat and let me know what else you would have chosen. If anybody has another one. And I certainly think that most people date a certain type. They don't even realize they're dating a type. We can end up having somebody look completely different, and then it's the same type over and over again. So we have some more answers here. The first one, a certain type of person is not a good match, Sheila says, and Karen says ones I can fix and or save. Yeah, we're gonna get to the type of person you become. This is the type of people they are. And then we're going to get to why we pick it. That's the fixer. Dated the same type of personalities with different faces, says Nicole. Oh boy, we have a lot of things coming in. Yeah, so that was Karen saying about fixer safe. And then Valerie said, I've dated so many types, I don't even know what to look for any longer. I get that. And Trisha said, I picked high maintenance, also relate to the one who alternates between treating me well and abusive. Yeah, so what happens is, if you said yes to any of these questions, you have a broken picker, but you're not broken. And that's the good news. Your picker's broken. You're not broken. You're a whole person. You're a wonderful person, but you date people who can never offer you what you want and need, which is a long-term, healthy relationship. You know, we pick people and we hope they're going to become the right partner. No, the group cannot see what you just wrote, Leslie, but unavailable. So yes, people who are unavailable in some way, emotionally unavailable, physically unavailable. I mean, I've had clients who've dated people who are so long distance that they were not available in that way. They hardly ever made time for them. Then there are people whose jobs are so busy that they say they're available, but they are not really available and they don't make time. So these people are not good for a relationship. They're not necessarily bad people. They're just not good for you to date. I remember years ago, I dated somebody who I thought he was lovely, charming. We had great conversations. By the third date, he was very unavailable. He was in the middle of starting his own business, a second business. His son needed him. I mean, he was being pulled in all directions. And he never followed up on the third date. He told me he wanted to see me, wanted to take me out to dinner, and never followed up. And I didn't follow up with him because he was so busy. I was just like, let's see what happens. If he follows up, we'll go out. And the next day, after the date was supposed to happen, he wrote me a text and said, I'm so sorry. I'm just so busy. And that was his thing. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. And he said, will you ever forgive me for forgetting the date? And I said, I forgive you, but I don't want to date you because I'm looking for somebody who's ready for a relationship right now and has the bandwidth to be in a relationship right now. So that's me evolved with relationship skills and being able to say that to somebody instead of always waiting, always being the last minute option, always being forgotten. So if this has ever happened to you, again, raise your hand. You can use the little raise hand option at the bottom. There's a little hand raise. I see Nicole and Allison, Trisha, Cece, bunch of people are raising hands. Yeah, so very common. Again, it happened to me. So I get it. I think that most of us have been there. Valerie, thank you for raising your hand, everybody. Susan. All right, so why do we repeat these patterns? There are many reasons. Modern dating, first of all, is kind of a mess. we can be exhausted. We can be disappointed. We go on date after date, boring dates, coffee dates. We get ghosted again and again. And then finally we meet somebody, there's a connection and we feel a little bit of chemistry. So we accept less than we want and need, right? Has this ever happened to you? Yes, I see some heads nodding. Yes, it has happened to me as well. And that's what leads to that scarcity. I'm going to date this person because they have some of what we need, some of what I need, maybe not all, but I don't believe the right person exists. Maybe, my standards are too high. Maybe they're too low. I don't know. So, have you ever believed that this is as good as it gets? I mean, I married, this is as good as it gets. I really thought that I had exhausted all the men in New York City, and this man really wanted to marry me. So I chose him because I thought this was a good choice, but I didn't have relationship skills back then. And so if we believe that this is as good as it gets, and we have to try really hard to make that person into the right person, it doesn't work. Or maybe, for some of us who have low self-esteem, maybe we believe this is what we deserve. We don't deserve any better. And I don't know if you believe that, but I think we can get to a point where we believe that, somebody chose us. We're so lucky to be chosen, right? Does anybody relate to that? Let me know. Let me just take a quick drink. So we have some raised hands. Thank you for being brave enough to raise your hand. So I'm here to tell you that you do deserve better, and the right partner does exist. But when you're dating the wrong person, you can't always tell that they're wrong for you until you've been with them for a little while. I was telling you about the guy who was busy. I thought he was possibly the right guy until he started being too busy. Maybe people start out giving you a lot of attention, and then the attention wanes and they become more distant as time goes on. Or maybe you notice some flags. I've had clients who say, well, there was a little flag, but it's not a big one. And maybe it's not, but maybe it is. And maybe we didn't recognize it soon enough, or maybe we dismissed it because we didn't think it was so bad. But sometimes a friend of ours tells us we're with somebody who's not good for us, that we deserve better. But we can't see it. We won't admit it. I mean, I've seen people who say, my friends are telling me to break up with this guy, but they don't know. They don't know me. They don't know him. He's really a great guy, right? And then the relationship ends. The person is busy. The person isn't available. And then you're blindsided. Oh my God, I didn't see it coming. Or we're heartbroken. And we really are like, we just didn't know. But I want you to know, because I want you not to date with a broken picker anymore. It takes away all of those blinders. It has you be super crystal clear. But we do the best we can with the knowledge we have. And knowledge is power. And that's really why I became a dating and relationship coach when my marriage ended. I wanted to learn the skills that I didn't have because I was seriously dating in the dark. I was feeling my way into relationships. I thought logically that if I chose people who were the opposite of the ones who didn't work out, then that would be the right person. But that's not going to work every time. And that's why people end up dating this super smart intellectual guy who has no emotions, right? He has no access to their emotional self, and I know we have some men on this, so I don't want to only talk about women. And Kat says, I ignored red flags with my 2 ex-husbands, and now all I see are red flags. I'm like, nah, I'm okay. Yes. So sometimes we become red flag blind, and sometimes we become red flag crazy. Like we just see red flags everywhere and we end up not dating. So that's another thing that happens. And I know that with the right inner work and the right skills, you can find the right partner. But the tragic thing about having a broken picker is it keeps you stuck with people who can never fulfill your needs. For whatever reason, this person is not a long-term match. You probably had real feelings for the people that you dated with a broken picker, right? They had some positive qualities. Maybe you had great attraction when you dated them. So why do our pickers get broken and what can we do about it? And I had the other poll up before, and these are the common traits of people who have a broken picker. So I want to have you listen closely because we're going to vote in the end. So I'm going to go through all of them, and then hopefully the poll will work. I have a feeling it won't because I already put it up. But even if not, you can just put your answers in the, why don't you just put your answers in the chat? I think it's better. So if you hear something that resonates when I talk about these traits, just write down what it is. Karen says, I understand that men won't be 100% of perfection of what I want. And so if a man is 80%, the remaining 20 is not all that, will those somewhat be red flags, or are these more like yellow flags and okay to live with? So that is a good question. I have a client who married a guy who had what I would say were a lot of green flags. the main reason I supported her in this marriage is because he had what I think are the most important green flags, which is he was self-aware and he was open to feedback and open to resolving conflict and open to learning and growing. If you're not open to those things, it's very hard to make a relationship work. Once they were married, a lot of things came up that she didn't know he had. And it became very dicey for a while. But because he had those other green flags, anything that felt like a red flag is now resolved. He was willing to go to therapy. He was willing to go get help for the things that weren't working. And so you have to know what your green flags and your red flags are. So the first thing is red flag blindness. If you have ever been blind to red flags, and Tricia says, yes, self-awareness and open to change are amazing, but they are critical. Like if you don't have those, you're going to end up in terrible arguments. You're going to end up stuck. You're going to be the one carrying the emotional weight of a relationship. People with broken pickers tend to ignore or dismiss red flags, and they hope that with time, everything's just going to work out fine. So why do so many smart, successful, amazing people do this? Well, the first reason is scarcity, what we just talked about. When we believe that there aren't enough good people out there, this is the best it gets, we date with a scarcity mindset. So we try to make the wrong person into the right person. We take this, it's kind of like the bionic person. I used to say, I found the right person, the perfect person. It's what we're really looking for are 5 different people in one. Like I think most of us have these crazy lists that are not realistic. And it takes a village, right? Like we don't rely on one friend for all of our needs, just like we shouldn't rely on one partner for all of our needs. So knowing that must-have list, and we're going to get to that in a minute, is so critical. And it's one of the first things I help clients with. So we'll get to that. But dismissing red flags is very bad. It makes us stay too long with the wrong partner. And then we look back and we go, oh my God, those things were present from the beginning. I just didn't think they were big enough red flags. And Kathy says, I'm blind as a bat. I love that. The second reason that we ignore red flags is attraction. When you meet someone, the chemistry's off the charts, which is a big warning sign. Your body releases all kinds of hormones, feel-good hormones like oxytocin, the bonding hormone, serotonin, all of these hormones, and it makes you think that you're in love. It makes your head fuzzy. It makes you ignore all the red flags. And right, Nicole says when things go fast and furious, you can't think straight. Your rational brain, your prefrontal cortex right here in the front, this part of you that makes rational and mature choices, this part is not making the choices. You're making choices from your hormones, from your body, and it makes your head fuzzy. You think you're in love. You think you're soulmates after 3 weeks. And no matter what little things are there, like, you think these are little things. Oh, he drank a lot. He's an alcoholic. Oh, the workaholic. Oh, the person who's still in love with their ex. Oh, but I'll change their mind. They'll fall in love with me. Or they're separated. They have no plans for divorce. Don't worry about it. Person told you, I am not looking for a relationship. Oh no, when they spend time with me, that's going to all change, right? Person who's controlling. They're telling you what to eat on the first date. Don't worry about it, because there's attraction and they're making out with you and that's amazing. So this is where the hormones kick in and the red flags are, you're completely blinded by those love hormones. So any red flag people who haven't yet commented, please comment if you are red flag blind, have been red flag blind, have gotten into a sexual relationship early on and missed some big things. Let me know. All of the above, says Karen. Okay. Carol raised her hand. All right. Relationship 2 years with a red flag, Sheila. Oh my God. And Karen says had been for sure. Yes, we do this I've done it. Definitely have done it in the past. I stayed with somebody that, and I wasn't even in a relationship when I was in my 20s. I thought we were in a relationship and he got engaged to another woman. I mean, it's crazy. Like I kept thinking, oh, the day will come when we'll have the talk, like all of a sudden I find out he's been seeing somebody else the whole time. So Heather says, yes, yes, and yes. Okay. Number two, and this came up before. So number two is a fixer. You're a fixer. You thrive on taking care of people. You like to fix people, fix problems. Let me know. We got Donna's a fixer. And it's a beautiful character trait to care for others. I see Trisha has her hand raised. But it's all about balance. Like kindness is great. People pleasing is not. It's all about balance. And Karen says, fixer can't help it, social worker. Well, I would challenge you to say you can help it because boundaries can come in. And Joan of Arc here, Heather, I love it. And Leslie's a fixer. I'm a coach. I fix people in some ways, but they really fix themselves. And that's really the beauty of it. And that's when you make that switch that it's not our job to fix, but to maybe be a catalyst for somebody changing. But really, it's not about changing somebody because we're not here to change people. Lexi says, I used to be a fixer. Nicole says, I went through that phase too, way too understanding and dismissing how uncomfortable situations would make me. Yes, Nicole. Yay, Lexi, says Leslie. So in a healthy relationship, two people care for each other, but they don't take care of each other. There's a big difference. You care for each other, you don't take care of each other. People with broken pickers believe they need to take care of their partners. Maybe you grew up in a home where you were responsible for your parents or your siblings' care. This is how it starts. Or you might choose somebody who has a victim mentality, and they also are an emotional manipulator. A lot of people are like, oh, I need you, and it becomes very manipulative. These type of people need somebody to constantly pay attention to them and take care of them, which is exhausting and unhealthy for both of you. So we got our red flag blindness, we got our fixers. And then number three is the romanticizer, the person who has unrealistic, romanticized idea of love. We have any romanticizers here? Very easy with the culture that we live in. We get so many highly romanticized messages from rom-coms, books, TV shows. I mean, they're all fun, but it's not real life. And it's easy to believe that a good relationship starts with instant chemistry. I mean, how many profiles say, I'll know them when they walk in the room. I'll have butterflies. Butterflies are actually a big warning sign. That's a big red flag, because if you're feeling that way right away, you're usually putting the person on a pedestal. You're seeing them as the other. Oh my God, I hope they pick me, which puts you down here and them up here. That starts the relationship with power differences, and it puts you at a disservice. Somebody who, we want the romantic gestures. We want to ride off into the sunset with our dream partner. But that's not love. That's attraction. That's chemistry. That's lust. And it's a fantasy that cannot be sustained, because love, true love, takes time. For the person whose picker is broken, it is hard to resist those big romantic gestures and sweet words of affirmation that are often empty and manipulative. So anybody here romanticize? Oh yes, love can solve anything, says Leslie. Don't start me up, says Heather. I can't find someone I want to kiss. Yeah, that could be a problem too. We can have the other problem, but we were raised to think love is this fantasy, and then we overlook amazing people because they don't make us feel those butterflies, and we don't have that painted picture of looking across a room and falling in love. Nicole said, yes, I have that too. Loving love too much. Yes, we love love. And it's good to love, but true love develops over time. And oxytocin, which is the chemical that I was talking about before, that chemical, all the chemicals that get released in sex and in love, we have that with friends. We have that with animals, right? If we have a pet and we pet the dog, we're going to get a release of oxytocin. And it's important to fill ourselves up with these chemicals so we're not relying on these fantasies to fill us up. So we're going to come up with the cure for all this in just a minute. And Sandy says yes, too. Number 4, you have difficulty expressing your feelings and needs. One of the biggest reasons that our pickers are broken is that people with broken pickers struggle to speak up, not just in their romantic relationships, but specifically, most importantly, in their romantic relationships. We don't say that our feelings are hurt. You know, like I shared that story before about the guy who was too busy to date. If we don't have the skills to say, hey, it's okay that you're too busy, I'm looking for something else, that is going to keep us in these relationships longer. Maybe we avoid expressing our fears or desires when we're dating somebody. Maybe somebody's going too fast for you and you want to slow it down, but you're afraid. And so you end up dating somebody for a while and it's going too fast and you're uncomfortable, but you stay anyway. You stay away from any difficult conversations, worried that somebody's going to leave you if you bring up important things too early on, or you'll come across as needy. You stay quiet when your feelings are hurt. You're fearful that you don't want to bring up everything. You want to be the cool girl. You want to be liked, but your stomach hurts when you suppress things that are really important, things you wish you could say. So let me know if that's ever happened to you. And Nicole wants to know, can we become oxytocin addicted? I don't believe we can, because we actually need oxytocin in our lives. We need it when we hug a child. We need it when we get it when we do all these things. This is what fills us up. And this is why COVID was so hard for so many people, because a lot of people were isolated and didn't get oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love drug, but it's also friendship drug. It's also the warmth of a person and of a pet and of our grandchildren and our children and our nieces and nephews. And, you know, it's really important. So we want to fill ourselves up with so much oxytocin that we're not relying on one person to give it to us. Sorry, Ruth, that you're sick with COVID now. Ugh is right. Trisha says, I relate to everything Sandy's describing, literally everything. Well, I'm sorry, but there's a cure. So that's the good news. And Kat says, I've definitely stayed silent to keep the peace, scared to rock the boat. Most of us have, because again, we didn't have the skills to do it in a way that was healthy, that was kind, that was clear. Most people don't know how to speak up. You know, I learned this skill set and teach this skill set because I struggled with it so much. And in fact, something just happened this week where, let me just take a quick drink. My son was selling his car and he contacted a few car dealerships to see if they were interested. And one of them was somebody I had a huge fight with when it's probably like almost 30 years ago. I had an accident and I brought my car in to get fixed at this dealership. And this guy told me he was replacing the door, which is what the insurance paid for. I came to pick up the car and it was clear that he did not replace the door, he fixed the door. And I said that to him. And he gaslit me basically. He told me I was crazy. Then he spread terrible things about me to my ex's family because he was a family friend. Anyway, it was a mess. And I was called insane, hysterical, crazy. And then all of this came up again because my son is selling his car and this guy is going to buy his car. And he said to me, Mom, I know you had a bad experience with him. You don't have to come with me to the dealership to, you know, pick me up. I'll take Dad. But it's almost 30 years ago. And I remember just feeling so powerless because this guy was so powerful. And I was a woman in a car dealership. And so those moments that stick with us, where we were silenced, where we were gaslit, where somebody told us that we were crazy for saying what was true. I mean, I was defending myself because it was true. And those moments stayed with me, and to the point where I said, I need to learn how to speak up in a healthier way. And I want to teach everybody these skills because we all need them, and most of us don't have them. So let me read the notes here. Ruth, you were in a 34-year marriage. Yeah, mine was 23, and that was a lot. But that's a lot. Ouch, says Kat. And Heather says, I don't have children or family, only animals. How will I fill up the oxytocin? Well, certainly with your animals, and I would say friendships. Women friends for women. There's a reason why there have been many studies that men do better with a woman in their lives. They live longer, they're healthier. Women do better with friendships in their lives. They don't, the same studies are women do better with women and men do better with women. We're great friends to each other. And that's what fills us up with oxytocin. I am telling you, you need your supply. And so go get it, and form closer relationships with your friends, because we often don't share vulnerably with our friends. We don't ask for help. Women friends are married, don't want to do anything. So find new friends. I mean, it's not simple, but go to meetup groups, go to new things. Like I just joined 2 gyms and I'm making new friends. And it's harder as an adult, but it's such an important thing to find people who are in a similar position as you, who want to have, get together and do fun things. So number 5, this is the final broken picker pattern. You unconsciously choose partners who remind you of one of your parents. And this is something that is so easy to pinpoint for me now when I work with somebody. We don't even know we're doing this. It's probably the most important reason why so many of us have broken pickers. We pick partners who are familiar, the word familiar, family, familiar. In other words, we partner with people who remind us of a parent. The person with the broken picker chooses somebody who unconsciously reminds them of their most dysfunctional parent or parents. And they believe that if they can make the relationship work with this partner, who is also dysfunctional, then they can fix what was broken in their childhood. So an example of this would be, I had a client whose father died when she was young. So this isn't a dysfunction, but it was abandonment for her. She would date men who were emotionally unavailable. It was an unconscious need of hers to make them available because her father had left so early on in her life because he died. And so it sounds crazy, but if you trace it back, this is what we do. We pick partners who remind us in some way. And I gave the other example of the woman who I interviewed who wrote a book about love. She had these parents who were completely glued at the hip and they ignored her. So she kept looking for partners who ended up ignoring her. Not at first. At first, they gave her a lot of attention and they were all tall and good looking and had higher status than she did. And they all ended up not having relationship skills. The man she's with now, she was friends with first. They built the oxytocin slowly as friends. And then suddenly her attraction grew. That will air next week. You're going to hear this. It was such a good episode. Anyway, we develop our insecure attachment styles through how we grew up as children. And the only way to fix these problems is to work on ourselves, to resolve trauma and the issues that are remaining from our childhood, because otherwise we just keep repeating them. And that's something I do in coaching. If you've ever worked with me privately, you know that I spend time with you on your attachment style and all of these things. So we have some more comments here. Yep, says Lexi. Trisha says 1,000%, not even 100. Kathy said, I've been widowed for 3 years now after 2 20-year marriages. I found a new gentleman, but it's also fresh and moving very quickly. So that's great that you found somebody even after 2 losses. So yeah, I mean, if it's moving too quickly for you, you have every right to slow things down, and it may seem weird. I mean, I've had clients who slept with somebody too soon and then said, hey, can we have a do-over? I lost myself last night and I'd like to slow things down because I don't trust myself right now. And the right person will say, sure, and the wrong person will say, no, I can't slow things down. Um, Valerie said, has been hard to find women not married when you move to a new city. Yeah, I mean, you don't know, some of my closest friends are actually married and I love them and we get together and, they don't have to be single to be great friends. But, you can find people who are single and married and have them all be wonderful friends. So open your mind around that. And Cece says, if widowed from a healthy relationship, unconsciously looking to replace, that could be too. And also, by the way, it could be a sibling. It could be somebody I dated told me his brother bullied him and he married a bullying woman. Not at all connecting the two, but married somebody who treated him similarly. So yes, we could unconsciously look to replace somebody and hold the bar so high that nobody comes close. So that could be too, Cece. Allison says, after listening to all five, I think I've fallen to red flag avoider, fall fast and hard, and let that oxytocin fly. Yep. Kathy says, how? I'm not sure what that question is in relation to. If you want to clarify, I came to realize, Nicole says, not long ago after doing an in-depth inner work, I realized I chose men that related with my father's and mother's traits, mainly men who were unavailable, dismissive of my emotions, and very punitive. And yeah, I'm glad you did some inner work on that. And Karen says, are we all related? And have lied for many years about major life stuff like being gay. That's important. Oh, how do you redo or slow it down? So Kathy, I just recommend just saying exactly what I said. I got involved too quickly. Some people just feel like a pressure to get involved sexually or to do what the other person wanted you to do. And it's really about saying, hey, I lost myself and I want this to work. Like, I really want this to be a healthy relationship. And I know for me, I need to slow things down a bit. I mean, I have a client who's been with somebody for a couple months. They still haven't had sex. They have gotten to know each other so deeply, so amazingly, and they are so excited about finally sleeping together. This is very different for her. And it was a choice they both made together. And they got to the point where they were talking so much, I told them to stop talking and start touching, because then you can make such a big deal out of the touching part. So you have to balance both. So let's talk about the cure for the broken pickers. I'm going to go through each one of these and how we cure them. If you have red flag blindness, the cure is obviously to learn to recognize red and yellow flags and talk about them early on. So some of them are just a definite no, but some of them are going to be a conversation. You're going to get curious about something that feels like a red flag. It might not be. So having those conversations early on is important, but before the chemicals start taking over your body, you need to be seeing those red flags clearly. Take off the green flag glasses and look for anything that's not working, because not too much, not like find every flaw, but like really address anything that makes you uncomfortable, makes your stomach hurt, makes you feel icky. If you're a fixer, for all the fixers, the cure is to remember that grown adults don't need you to take care of them. It's really important to stay on your side of the street. Even people who have children, like, it's not our job to do it for them. It's not our job to fix them. It's our job to guide them, to check in, to see if they want support, but not to do it for them. And if you've been a caretaker and if you've been in a caretaking job, like nurse, therapist, coach, any of these fields, then you're used to taking care of people. And it takes a lot of self-work to not be the caretaker. You don't want somebody who's going to constantly need you to validate them. That's not healthy. If you're a romanticizer, the cure is to redefine what love is to you. Because loving relationships, like I said, develop over time through consistent trust, intention, effort, empathy, understanding. These are relationship skills. So you need to learn how to define your must-haves and your deal breakers, your particular ones, and slow things down so you can see clearly. If you're somebody who has difficulty speaking up, the cure is obviously to learn how to identify what are you feeling, what are you needing, and to express these things kindly and clearly. I just finished teaching communications course. We have some people here who took that course. It is my passion to teach these skills. So it's hard for us to do on our own. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can help you identify and express your feelings and needs to feel more empowered and help you find a partner who's going to have those conversations with you. If you unconsciously choose partners who remind you of one of your parents or maybe of your sibling, like we said, so the cure is to do the inner work. I help my clients unravel their attachment styles, to learn why we do these things and recognize who this person reminds them of most. And the solution is to work on healing and becoming more securely attached, because that's how we make our best choices in partners. So we have Sandy said, I definitely extremely selective after making so many bad choices in dating. I also find men who are recent widowers too anxious to fill the vacant spot. Beware. Plus, I do not have sex with men or dates right away, and they often lose interest because I will not. Even when we enjoy each other, I don't want to jump into bed till I know them much better. Then a couple of months. So the other problem is if you wait too long because you don't want to lose yourself, people will get disinterested. You've got to find that balance. And I recommend that you let somebody know that you're attracted, right? If you don't let them know, then they're just going to think, why should I wait? Because I could wait 3 months and then nothing will happen. And I don't want to waste time. So we have to find that healthy balance. All right, so catch my breath for a minute, and we're just about at the end. But as you can see, our pickers get broken because of how we were raised, the choices we made, the lack of skills that we have. But the good news is there is a cure, and it takes learning new skills. So who's ready to fix their broken picker? Raise your hand. We got some hands raised. Well, if you enjoyed this and would like to go deeper, and I'm going to share my free gift with you in a minute, but I want to share something special that I created. It's a Fix Your Picker workshop, and it's happening this Sunday. It's a 2-hour workshop. And what we're going to do, I'm going to put the link in here because this is the first time I'm announcing it. It's something special I created just for this. So it's coming up this Sunday, June 30th from 7 to 9 p.m. And it's Eastern, so convert it to your time zone. It's going to be on Zoom. And when you sign up, you're going to get a guidebook, and it has 5 exercises. They have to do with all the things that we talked about. Why your picker is broken. That's the first thing. You're going to get an exercise to help you define your own broken picker problem. How to identify red flags early on so you can prevent heartache. So we're going to do a whole red flag exercise. We're going to teach you how to create your must-have list, which is really important because most people create the wrong list and it keeps you single. You're also going to discover your attachment style, and that's super important. We talked about that, and that will give you more security as you date. And I'm going to be giving you scripts for breaking up with the wrong people, and at different stages. So the breakup part is just as important as the dating part. You have to let the wrong people go in order to make space for the right people. And my clients love my scripts. We have people here who love the scripts. So I priced it low so everyone can join. It's only 2 hours of your time. It's not a long program. And the replay is available the next day if you can't make it live, but I hope you do, because I'm going to be giving you attention and coaching you. I think it's $197 for the whole thing. And so it's the Fix Your Broken Picker workshop. I also have a free gift. So let me know if you have any question. Leslie says Sandy's the queen of scripts. Yeah, I love helping people with scripts. Yeah, if you have any questions about the program, but also I'm going to put in a link here for all of you. This is a red flag recording. It's a 1-hour MP3 on how to identify red flags in relationships. Again, this is only for people who are here live, so you people are all lucky. The other 100 or so who weren't able to make it live are not going to get this, unfortunately. But I am going to open now for your questions and my answers. So let me know. You can unmute yourself, or you can just type in the chat if you have any questions. And I'd also love to hear your takeaways from this program. Like, tell me something you learned, tell me something you're going to apply to your dating life. I love to hear from you. And I know that you all talk a lot when you're not here, so talk away.
Hi, Sandy. So my big takeaway is it's always tricky when you talk red flags, okay, green flags. Those are kind of easy if you want, but then what do you do with the red flags, right? If we're talking about a reasonable amount of red flags. And what you mentioned about looking at the personality traits of that person, right? The self-awareness, being willing to do the work, being open to receive constructive criticism. It's super important, because then it has happened to me, like, okay, I have this reflex, and then what do I do? Or do I dismiss it? Because then again, I have all these positive things, right? But in essence, looking at those core personality traits are essential, because no matter what you encounter, that person is going to have a good disposition to work things through. So I think that's something to really look into. And I appreciate you mentioning that, because that kind of gives me like a focus of what to look into.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Nicole. And it's good to see you again.
Thank you. Same here. I always your podcast every week.
Thank you. Yeah, so the red flags negate the green flags. Like, if there's one red flag, I always say it doesn't matter how good looking they are, how many degrees they have, how tall they are. I mean, we place importance on status and what society thinks is good for a partner, and what we think we will feel better about being with the person who looks a certain way and acts a certain way. But if they don't have those really important traits, it just negates everything else, because it doesn't matter. And the opposite is true. Like I said, that person who married that guy, they went through some tough months because they had a lot of things they needed to work through, but he was open. He might have gotten defensive in the beginning, but then he apologized, and then he did the work. You know, if you have a person who apologizes and never does anything to change their behavior, you're with a person whose character you need to fall in love with. That doesn't change, but habits can change. And so if we go in with somebody with great character, but with some bad habits, and we have them too, that we're both willing to make compromise and say, I wasn't aware that I was doing something that was hurtful. And so, yeah, the red flag piece is super important. Thank you, Nicole. Sheila says, what do we do? Oh, Heather wanted to know how you listen to the gift. You click the link in the comments, and it'll bring up a page on my website, and it has a download button on there, and that's how you can listen. What do we do with a relationship that has financial inequity? My partner didn't disclose it. When do we have the talk? And how do we have the talk? Good question. So I'll be covering more of that in the class, but what we do is have the talk early on. I actually talked to a guy on the phone once, and we were just kind of talking about money. And I said, what's your credit score? And he said 750 or something. And I said, I beat you. So it was kind of playful, but I want somebody with a good credit score. I want to know if they have a lot of debt. I don't want to date them, or tell me why you have debt. Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe they took out a mortgage on their house because their parent was sick and they were trying to help. I don't know. There could be some reasons why people do what they do that might be legitimate, but you won't know unless you talk. So you're not going to have like intimate money talks, but that client I was telling you about who still hasn't slept with that guy, they've had the money talk. They've talked about what they would do if they ended up together and how they would deal with finances. What's their vision? You want to know, how does somebody envision having a partner in their life? What would that look like? How would they make time for you? How would you make time for them? If your life is so packed full of everything and you're never going to compromise anything, this is never going to work. But if you will make space for somebody, that's the key. So I do believe that we can have hard conversations when we are starting to really develop feelings for people. I mean, most people don't have that what's your credit score conversation on a first phone call, but I'm a little crazy that way. But it was a great conversation. He was totally open to it, and it was kind of like, a little competition. I'm proud of my credit score. I worked hard to make the money I have and to save money and to put money away for retirement. I mean, built my own business. Those are things I'm proud of. And I would love to be with somebody who's also proud of what they've accomplished in their life. Who else has questions? We're just about at time. I want a man who owns where he lives, not someone who just rents. He doesn't have to maintain, improve, or fix. So this is a common thing, Valerie. I would say that's not a must-have, and I would push back on that because I own my house. I have so many expenses coming up right now that I'm really thinking about renting somewhere, because there's a lawn to maintain, there's a fence that broke, there's so many things that are in need of improvement. Houses are money pits in many ways, and some people rent and are doing really well financially. So if it's because you want somebody who's financially responsible, then that's somebody you should look for. But if you're going to focus, and this is for everybody, if we focus on things like having a house represents something to me, look at what's underneath. If you want somebody who has a PhD, why? Because they're intelligent. You can be intelligent with a high school diploma. You can be stupid with a PhD, honestly. You can be not as emotionally intelligent for sure. So look at what's underneath. And this is what I do with people when they create their must-have list with me. Heather says, I've always had a man who paid. Guy just met, said splitting the cost on vacation. I said I'd pay for my airfare, and that's it. He did not respond. So it's not a command, it's a discussion. There are people who have mismatched financials and they love each other and they make it work. And I've seen it happen again and again. And so you don't want to have so many standards that aren't realistic, and then not have standards that are realistic. And this is what happens when we discuss must-haves and deal breakers. And that's why I'm doing this workshop. Cece, did you unmute yourself? That you had a question?
I did. I was just going to say this has been empowering. I appreciate your wisdom so much. But one funny thing on the romanticizing, I was driving in the car and I'm like, I have to stop these Frank Sinatra love songs. I I have to stop what I listen to because it's really not real. And I love all that kind of music. It's ridiculous. But I also think very simply that it's finding someone that's open to growth, right? That it's willing to have the discussions, that it's, at this point in our life, or for myself in my 60s, it's, we aren't going to change, but are we aware, and can we come to the table, and can we work it out and talk it out, and right? That's moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you're widowed and you had a high bar to have somebody else meet, but you don't want to have his clone. And
Right.
it's also important how you communicate with people who come into your life now about what it means to you to date somebody new and to be in a relationship. And, you know, you need people who are going to feel that you're not comparing and that you are open to love again. And so for a lot of people who are widowed, this becomes an issue. And you know, we all deal differently. People who are divorced, people who've never been married, people who are widowed. But yeah, this relationship stuff is not easy, but it's also not that hard. Once you understand it, you can have the courage to have conversations early on and not date with a broken picker anymore. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Cece. Thanks everybody. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much, Nicole, for your kind words. And thank you. It's so good to see so many faces and so many beautiful faces here. And I really hope that a lot of you join the program. It's short, it's jam-packed, and you're going to get this on steroids. You'll be able to work with me on a lot of these core issues that once you solve them, you will fix your picker. And that's what I want for all of you. So have a wonderful night, everybody. Thank you for all your kind words and for being here. And I will see you hopefully soon. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.